Ooh, Will beat me here today. Sorry about the delay on that. How's everyone doing? Can everyone hear me?
I can do.
Perfect. I can hear you too. Hey everybody, welcome. And thank you so much for being patient with us as we rescheduled this multiple times. We really appreciate it. It's been a lot of data to get through. We'll definitely talk more about that a little bit later, but we're super excited to have you all on with us today. We've been working hard on crunching the numbers for this and finalizing this. Obviously, the staking playtest was a really big kind of step for us as we prepare for launching the L1 economy and the L1 token listing. So big thanks to everyone who participated a couple of weeks back. I'm just going to kick off and yeah, we'll wait for more folks to join. Usually I delay a couple of minutes, but let's just kick off. All right, so hello everyone and welcome to the latest LAMINA1 AMA, where we tune in live with the community and provide updates on what we've been working on, what's next for builders, creators, testers, and developers on the network. So as I said before, after a couple of delays, we are excited to come on today with you all to provide a recap of the staking playtest we conducted a little while ago with you all, and also to announce our sort of like standing winners of both the test as well as last week's L1 Gold and Platinum Rewards Pass release, which should have dropped earlier this week to 22 lucky community members who've been questing with us on the LAMINA1 Telegram bot. So lots of winners, rewards today. Obviously, yeah, we're gearing up sort of for a very big next couple of weeks. As I said before, completing this playtest was a really big deal because it does mean that we are one step closer to listing the L1 token, as well as making the new staking functionalities that we just tested live to the public. So the idea is, you'll be able to start earning with your airdrop rewards and liquid tokens as soon as the L1 economy goes live. We've definitely got a lot of questions from community members over the last few weeks on like when this will roll out. But yeah, the idea is like we want folks to be able to have stuff to do with their L1 tokens as soon as the economy goes live. And what better way to use those tokens than to support the network, earn rewards, and really just kind of get involved in supporting us. So with me today, as you guys all see on stage, is CTO Will Carter, who is the mastermind of much of this playtest and who has come prepped with a bunch of data to share with you all on how the playtest went, what it means for the upcoming LAMINA1 economy, and also just to answer any live questions you guys have after we kind of did it. So welcome, Will, and ready to kick off?
No, not at all, but we're here. I just want to say ahead of time, I know it's been a while since we did the play test, and I'm sorry for the delay. There's still some things, some pieces of data I'm trying to put together, so this won't be everything, like all of the insights we'll have. We do want to share the data that we got from the play test with the community, and so once we get it cleaned up, we'll do that as well. And I do want to say the TUSD pool is not final at the moment. So as if you remember, there were 4 pools. The highest TUSD gain pool I'm still calculating. So bear with me for just a couple, probably within the hour, I'll have the winners for that as well. And then I think we were going to push to release rewards while we did this AMA, but I do want to make sure that we have all the data correct before we distribute those rewards. And so we're going to give it like a day or two after the AMA before we actually distribute the rewards to the winners. So I just wanted to preface everything with that. But otherwise, it's great to be here. I've spent way too long going through all of the data from this playtest, and I made my life a living hell by not just starting everyone else, starting everyone in the test out at the same initial amount of L1 and LL1. So I think it was a better test for having everyone with the actual tokens that they have in the mainnet at the moment, but it did make calculating these scores extremely difficult. Just some background, we had to build a custom indexer from scratch to track each and every transaction and whether or not that transaction was considered like a fair transaction or something that could be considered an unfair transaction within the rules of the staking playtest. And so that was like thousands of lines of code that we had to get up and running and troubleshoot and test. And I think it's all working now. I think the results were actually pretty interesting. And so, yeah, let's, I think, dive into them.
Amazing. So yeah, I prepared a little deck for you all. We'll drop it at the end of the play test, but let me pull it up real quick. Let me make sure it's working. Please work, Discord. Oh shoot, great. It's not working, which is just the most fabulous thing ever. Let's try that again. Haha. All right, excellent. So yeah, really excited about this. Thanks, Will, for the explanation. I will confirm that Will has been pinging me since 6 o'clock in this with final stuff. He was up all night kind of crunching this data. Again, we really appreciate you guys being patient with us. This was a little more crazy to crunch the numbers as we anticipated. I guess kind of before we kick off though, for anyone who's kind of joining in and is like, what is this AMA about? I haven't really heard from L1 in a while. Let's kind of just recap before we go into the data, like what were our goals, Will, for conducting this playtest? Like what were we trying to achieve through all of this economic modeling and kind of presenting these features early to L1 community members?
Yeah, we were trying to test a couple things. Number one was to just test out the new staking tab within the LAMINA1 hub, make sure that the UX works, it's clear to everyone who was using it. I think we had great feedback from that. Make sure that it's performant, that when it's getting hit by hundreds of people at a time, that it still does what it needs to do, that the gas fees don't get crazy, and that latency doesn't become an issue. And then, we had run a similar test already internally, and we found it was like a really good way to learn the ins and outs of the system. And so we wanted everyone to get the opportunity to get their hands on it before it goes live, to understand like how it all works. Um, if you did participate, you probably noticed that like it was really valuable to get in on day one and start staking, because rewards are given out as a percentage of the people who stake. So if you're one of the only stakers, you obviously get a larger percentage of the rewards. So there's like different dynamics and nuances like that that we thought would be really important for the community to know prior to the launch of staking. And then yeah, it was just to also get a sense for how balanced it is. We gave a couple people a lot of tokens uh, to sort of act as renegades and rewards farmers to see if they could break the system. Um, there was an initial goal to also start like modeling the behaviors of different outside parties, outside of the community. So like team tokens, tokens from market makers and from investors. Um, we were going to do that, and then as the test went on, I sort of took a step back from that just to see how like this would all work with only the community. Um, because it was a contest, I didn't want to sort of skew the results by introducing these variables in an unfair way. And so that's something we didn't do, that would have made the actual end results maybe a little bit more accurate. So this is like really a sort of closed pool, uh, only really considering the tokens that we gave out to the community based on their current balances. So it doesn't actually, don't use anything you see in this presentation or from this experience as like investment advice or like guidance to do anything when this goes live, because it's a very, very much simplified model. There are a lot of external variables that were not modeled here. And so while we wanted it to like feel like the real thing, we wanted to get as much data as possible for how the real thing will work. There are a lot of pieces to this that weren't included. So yeah, I think that was the goal overall, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you guys know we have to say that whenever we're talking about financial and economic stuff because, we are who we are and we are, based in the United States. But yeah, I'd say it's like super important. I mean, we did like a test with top testers where they really just got to poke around the staking UI and, were able to kind of get familiar with the system. And we talked a lot internally as a team being like, we need to open this up to the whole community because like that's an advantage, right? Like even just kind of like knowing your way around the system. And I know, Will, we did like a lot of, it was really funny kind of going through user feedback. I'll just kind of like show a flash of one of the staking pages, but we got a lot of user feedback that was everything from like, this is the simplest staking UI I've ever used to like, this is way too complicated. What the heck is going on? And so I think like, taking a second too, like in addition to playtest goals, is like maybe let's talk a little bit about like what is our staking UI necessarily like? What was it designed to help users do? Like, what was the development process of this tool like? And then third question is like, why stake on Lamina1 in the first place? Like, what are the benefits of using this system when it does go live?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's the incentives aspect of it, which is, how do you manage the liquidity of the currency in the market? And part of up for a set period of time. You can see by that slider on the screen. And as a result, you get periodic rewards. So that's important for managing liquidity in the market, for the economy of the currency. It's also important for the security of the network as well as the governance of the network. One thing that wasn't demonstrated here, which is coming up next, is the ability to receive governance tokens in addition to your stake tokens. So right now during this playtest, when you staked, you got a number of stake tokens based on how much you staked and how long you staked. In the future, you'll also get an equal or maybe slightly different amount based on a multiplier amount of vote tokens. And those vote tokens will be used throughout the network for a variety of things, electing people to some of the governance bodies in the network, distributing rewards in certain ways, voting on different initiatives or grants in the network, or even feature development requests. So there's going to be a lot of use cases for that vote token we're working on, and that'll also be like a very important consideration when you decide, or if you decide to stake.
Yeah, totally. We'll talk about UI feedback and like kind of UX decisions that we've made. That's part of this presentation as well. So I think, whoops, click the wrong button. I think let's dive into data next. So again, we pulled a bunch of data, I guess to kind of start, just to kind of see like where did we start with this in terms of like the playtest parameters we set up. This was publicized to all of our playtesters, but again, if anyone's listening in who didn't participate, we ran the playtest at like it was basically like a 5-day period, and we sped up the time by 90x. So basically, like every 16 minutes was a day on the Lamina1 network. And the amount of kind of tokens in terms of like rewards tokens and stuff was aligned with the latest version of the governance and tokenomics paper. So 450 million LL1 were in the system with a 5% unlock rate, 500 million RL1 with a 10% unlock rate, meaning that 10% of those tokens will unlock per quarter. We've got 50 million liquid L1 that we had in, a 10% issuance rate, That RL1 issuance split was split half and half between stakers and creators. And as such, it was basically a test that simulated 5 quarters of economic activity. So just a little over a year. Will, do you want to say anything more, have anything additional to add about just like the parameters that we set up and like why we wanted to do it at this rate and with these parameters?
So these parameters in general are ones that I think if you were following the development of the token economics paper, both the initial one and the rework that we did, these were all things that were talked about, specifically the allocations and the unlocked rates. I won't talk about them too much here, other than like the unlock rates were actually increased as a response to community feedback. Same with the issuance rate, I believe we increased that as well. The amount of liquid L1 is supposed to sort of be a representation of the supply that would be in the market sort of very early on. The 90x feedback is just so that we could get through at least an entire year within a couple days, since we didn't want people to like lose sleep having to do this for weeks on end, to get like any meaningful data. And yeah, the 50/50 RL1 issuance split, again, that's from the economics paper. Almost all of these, except for the speed up, are and maybe the liquid L1 are just going to be things from the token economics paper, that you can go ahead and look at. So, I mean, the reason these were chosen were to the way that they were to sort of reflect the actual economic allocations when we launch.
Great. All right, so let's talk test participation. So during the playtest, we had 1,048 active addresses. Y'all were joined by 5 core team members who were noodling around on our own side. We also, as Will mentioned at the top of the session, we did give 4 quote unquote rewards farmers 2,000 L1. As a lot of you guys know, we have been watching the network very closely for folks who've been farming tokens, and we wanted to give them kind of like a commensurate amount to some of the big folks that we've been watching, to see how much of an advantage they could accrue with the system. Obviously, we're taking this pretty seriously. There's we want to make sure that creators and builders get adequately rewarded and that, the network doesn't just completely go over to rewards farming. So big thing that we've been watching and that we wanted to kind of test out and see and model economically with this playtest. And yeah, we also did a lot of you, I think we got over 400 responses to our end of playtest survey. But according to that data, I'd say about 5% of folks said that they had really high participation in this playtest. That we kind of defined as like people using like a script timer or like strategy, and we're staking like up to 20 or more times per day. Like these are folks, I'm sure if you guys kind of like were active on the Staking Playtest channel, you noticed like some folks were developing bots, they were testing them out. To kind of like auto stake for them. We definitely anticipate that that's going to be kind of like a part of staking in the economy of L1. And, if you want to develop a bot that helps you stake and, stakes for you, like, definitely go for it. We definitely have some community members that could help you out or provide resources or even help you debug, as we saw in the channels. 83.8% of community members said they had like medium participation. I definitely fell in this group where, they were staking and restaking multiple times per day, had a fairly simple or minimal strategy, but, we're involved in the playtest, but probably weren't like maxing like crazy. And then we had about 10% of folks who just like said, low participation. I checked out the new features, did a little bit of testing, but, I didn't give my whole weekend up to this. I think that's also super important too. I mean, we wanted to kind of model, and so I think that data was interesting. Was definitely less active than our top testers playtest, where we had a lot of folks who were like really, really active in it. But yeah, I think that was cool data. We saw that the average number of stakes per user was just about 8.43. And the number of blocks we generated just through this simple playtest was about 65,000 blocks.
Slight corrections to that slide, just live.
Okay.
We've been talking about it in the chat. Rewards farmers did get 4,000 L1 to start with
Oh,
instead of 2,000.
4,000. Shoot.
Yeah, and we'll go back and correct this stuff before we show this doc. But the other thing, the exact number of blocks generated was 58,363. So
Oh my God.
close to 65,000. But
All right. Well, I will
I
say, just
take
you told me the
responsibility for
wrong number.
that.
um, it's good. All right. So next up, number of assets staked. So this was definitely super interesting. We had kind of like over 44 million L1 was staked throughout the course of the playtest, and Will also pulled us some data on just like the kind of percent of L1 that was staked within 90-day intervals. You'll notice that it was very high, kind of at the beginning of the playtest, and kind of like went down as we got closer to the end of the playtest. I definitely have theories on why that might be, but I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. So, Will, what was interesting to you about this data?
I mean, I think it really represents I mean, it's a good thing. I think it shows that a lot of people sort of understood the mechanics of the game going in and how important it was to stake early on. And I think this is sort of what we expected to see, that early on when rewards are extremely high and there aren't that many participants, it's like going to be very valuable or important if you want like a lot of staking power and voting power in the system to lock up your tokens. And so I think it makes sense that literally almost all the liquid L1 was staked in the network. And then as time went on, I think some people pulled out to try to diversify, maybe to win other prize pools like the liquid L1 pool or TUSD pool. And I think that that sort of reflects, you know, maybe some real life as well. Like people will want to remove some of their staked L1 and, you know, maybe take, uh, you know, move it onto the marketplace or use it, whatever the case is. I'd say these are probably higher than you would expect in real life
Mhm.
because there isn't a whole lot else to do with the token in the playtest other than to stake it or sell it. So given that there are these are again like I really urge you not to use this as guidance for making any decisions in the mainnet when we actually release this. But like there's going to be a lot of other variables. There's going to be other things you can do with the token. There's going to be multiple marketplaces. So I think these numbers will probably be a little bit lower in the mainnet, but maybe not that much lower, especially in the first couple quarters or year.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, like, it was really interesting, I think, on my end to kind of watch. Like, there was some, like, folks minting, like, NFTs on the playtest site and, like, auctioning those off in the middle of the playtest. And I was super stoked about that because it was like, oh, like, actually, this is modeling, like, an actual economy. Like, you will have to make the decision of, like, do I use my L1 to stake? Do I use it to access experiences or mint? And it was really cool to see that. I don't think we were really expecting folks to start up some like NFT storefronts and stuff within the playtest. But yeah, shout out to all of those who side quested on that because that was super fun. Um, all right, next up, assets traded. So these are charts that were pulled by Ed. Probably going to remove these slides from the public playtest things just because, pricing speculation is hard. But I think, shout out to Ed for pulling these charts on the L1 token price. It was super interesting to see the price kind of go up and down as the playtest went. That was kind of a new feature of the second playtest was we allowed people to swap their L1 for TUSD via an on-platform swap pool, which I know a lot of people really liked. So in terms of like the assets traded, we had just over 2,000 buy transactions. We had kind of just over 1,000 sell transactions. And the average L1 price during the playtest was about 150 per L1 token. Again, not a super accurate economic model, as Will was saying. We had 1,000 playtesters. Obviously, like much more as L1 goes into, but interesting to look at those price dynamics regardless. And then in terms of the rewards earned, these numbers were super cool and interesting. We had over 202,000 RL1 were earned by participants throughout the playtest. A oh God, like billions of stake tokens generated across users, kind of affecting your overall staking power on the network. Average rewards generated per day for like everyone were about 450,000 RL1. And then average rewards per user by the end of the playtest kind of netted out around 193,000 L1. So yeah, you guys were earning, I think, obviously that strategy of max staking and staking up a bunch of stuff definitely shows high earning potential, especially with this kind of small sample size. Will, anything else to add on this slide?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my God, Ed got one NFT for 1 million tokens. See, yeah, that's amazing. I love
I'm
that.
dying. It's a
Yeah,
billion, isn't it? Oh no, 1 million. You're right. That's
yeah,
funny.
crazy. Oh, with a B. So alchem. Damn. Okay, amazing. Um, I also wanted to go over some like community feedback. So again, this was taken from the end of Staking Playtest survey, which again, like a ton of you guys filled out. Thank you so much. Our overall UX rating this time around, which again was one of the big features, like we really wanted to make sure that this UI was navigable by both kind of like experts and complete noobs to the Web3 space. So we got a 9.3 out of 10 from you guys, which is a significant increase. I think we got about 8 out of 10 the last time we play tested it with the V1 version, which, we definitely made a lot of fixes from the last round per your guys' feedback. In terms of like the primary bugs that we did pull out and that the team is working on prior to launch right now is slow loading times for users who accrued a lot of staking activity and transactions. We have our devs working on like, how do we prioritize just like page loading so that like, once, you get super active and you've got, maybe 40, 50 stakes live at one time, making sure that the UI is, properly showing that it doesn't take too long to load. Obviously, there's a lot of kind of like live data that governance and staking page is pulling. So just doing some optimizations on that end. We definitely heard a lot of just MetaMask connection issues and UX friction, slow and sticky transactions, MetaMask not popping up or switching networks when it should have. This is just, it's something that, gets reported quite a lot. It's obviously really nice to be able to have your L1 connected to your MetaMask so that you can, take your assets outside and, keep everything in one wallet. But yeah, definitely like more frictions for MetaMask users than users who, sign in via Discord or another social sign-on. So we're continuing to work on optimizing that, making sure that we provide as frictionless of an experience for those MetaMask users, even if you do have to click like a couple of more buttons in your pop-up modal while you're engaging on the network. And same with like staking table UI and accessibility. So we inserted, due to user feedback, just like a table within the UI that shows you like all of your active stakes, when they're going to unlock, all of that stuff. It was a first pass, and we're definitely looking into improving things like the scroll bar, light mode checkboxes, a bunch of stuff that you guys called out as being a little bit less than production ready. So again, thank you all for your feedback. We read all of them. And definitely like have had a lot of really long conversations about how to make this easier for folks and optimize for the public launch. In terms of quick fixes that we made, shout out to, I can't remember who said this, but someone asking like, why is the tab named governance, not staking? I thought this was super interesting. So the team had like a conversation about this afterwards, and I think we are going to rename the tab to staking for the public launch. I think initially we had this idea and this dream that like, wouldn't it be cool if we could put staking info and governance info on the same page? Like you could stake your tokens, earn your stake and vote tokens, and then use your vote tokens to, participate in governance on the platform, as Will was saying. But I think a lot of the feedback we ended up getting was like, this page is already pretty complex on its own. So I think the team is really starting to think like, okay, we might need to break out, staking and voting into two separate UIs just so that the page doesn't get insane. And it was really good to kind of hear that from you all. The last thing we want to do is just provide like a complex UI that's like completely impossible to navigate. The Web3 space has enough of that already. We fixed a bunch of chart UX glitches, missing collect buttons. We are definitely aware of the gas calculation and decimal issues with the swap pool UI. Will, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that swap pool UI. A lot of folks were really stoked about it because obviously having an on-platform swap pool would be freaking so cool. For the future, but that feature is not necessarily going to be live when we launch staking, correct?
Yeah, it almost certainly won't be live when we launch
Yeah.
staking, as cool as it is. We don't have plans to operate a DEX or a swap pool. I'm sure there will be people that do launch swap pools and DEXs and exchange listings, but there are a lot of questions and concerns when it comes to actually integrating that functionality directly into the product that we certainly won't have it there on day one. And there's a question of whether we'll ever include like a DEX directly into the hub. We are envisioning obviously like fiat on ramps to get into the platform and get tokens. A big part of the reason why we want people to get tokens is to actually use them for experiences and to purchase things from creators. And so, like, a lot of fans don't want to go to an exchange and buy a currency, a cryptocurrency in order to pay for something. And so we do envision there being some type of fiat on ramp built directly into the hub at some point. But yeah, for sure on day one, that liquidity pool is not going to be there. And we hear you. We really liked it too. I think it was really convenient and nice. And maybe like if the community does spin up a number of different marketplaces, we could like explore maybe having something integrated that would allow you to choose between marketplaces. I don't know. I'm brainstorming here, but we won't have like an official Lamina1 marketplace for the currency at all.
Yeah.
So it does make having it integrated directly into the hub and making it feel official much more difficult. So it's something like we hear you. We liked it as well. We thought it was really nice to have. We'll consider, we'll continue thinking about ways to make it easier to get access to the token directly within the hub. But yeah, I don't expect it'll look like that. Definitely not on day one.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and yeah, some other things that we're always thinking about is just further optimizing for mobile and tablet devices. Obviously, I think our engineers just pushed a big update around that, or will be soon. And I think another really big thing that we've been thinking a lot about is just kind of like different degrees and modes of like what analytics you're being presented. So like, is there like a staking governance light mode? Is there an advanced mode? Like right now, like the staking page is kind of designed to serve just like one user and one use case, but we definitely heard from a lot of you guys that like, everything from like I want to look even deeper into the stats and what's happening on the network, like I want like charts and numbers and just like everything all over, to like this is really confusing to me and I don't understand like what any of these numbers mean even with all of the tooltips. So like yeah, are there like various modes or kind of degrees of info that you can opt into or kind of like toggle through is something that's super interesting and kind of been on our engineers' minds for again like kind of future iterations. And again, as we add like the governance layer onto this, I think it'll be super important. So thanks everyone for calling that out. And then translation support as well. This is something I know we tested in BetaNet with you all, in terms of like we modeled this really crazy kind of LLM powered auto translation. It was a little buggy and a little bit tricky to get right, but we definitely hear users being like, if this is my real money and these are real financial transactions, like I want to be really sure and confident about what I'm reading and what's going on. So definitely brought that up to the team again, thanks to your inputs, and we're going to try to figure out on how to bring that back soon for all of our non-English speaking US users who are not happy with Google Translate's kind of automatic translation of the site in general. Will, do you have anything else to say about UX feedback, the community stuff? Again, guys, I literally I collected sheets of all of your feedback, and we take every single kind of piece and make sure that our engineers see it and that it's going into our product development process as always.
I think you did a great job covering it. I don't know that I could add
Amazing.
much more.
All right, so now that we've gone through the data, I think we should announce our winners. So, as Will said, these winner lists are still kind of in progress. We're still getting to calculate the TSUD USD stuff, but the idea is, hold on, let me move this. We did announce that there were going to be 4 kind of prizes at the beginning of this playtest to incentivize participation. One was highest gain for Liquid L1, highest gain for all of our rewards tokens kind of combined, highest gain for TUSD, and then just kind of like a crazy absolute value prize, like who can earn just like the most assets on the network, regardless of where they started out with. Just, a massive free for all rewards farmers welcome, all of that stuff. So the idea is, again, we're still just finalizing calculations on this. We've got some winners to announce soon. To announce here. But the idea is these tokens will be dropped into your accounts by the end of the week. And also, I designed a couple of trophies for our playtest participants that we're going to be dropping as NFTs to you all also at the end of the week. The gold trophies are going to go to our playtest winners. And the silver trophies are kind of a participation trophy that goes to everyone who participates. And we definitely I'll kind of talk more about this, I think, next week, but we're going to be launching some new features soon. Someone actually mentioned it in the chat, is like this new signed message feature that we're starting to put into the hub. The idea is we're going to start being able to kind of like token gate and kind of sort community members based on their NFT holdings. And so we're really excited to start kind of being able to distribute NFTs to folks and, give people either rewards or special access to features and channels and badges and stuff like that based on their on-chain holdings. So definitely stay tuned for that drop again at the end of this week. Will, before we go into announcing our winners for 3 out of these 4 prizes, do you have any additional caveats or even just explainers on how you calculated this data? Because I know it's been crazy for you.
Yeah. So like I said, it was very hard to do this in a completely fair manner because everyone did start out with a different amount of currency. I think I was a little bit more confident than I should have been in how easy it would be to untangle that starting currency and give everyone like a fair score. I can talk a little bit in each pool as we go through it. Some of the caveats. Which one's our first pool? Is it L1?
It'll be Liquid L1. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about Liquid L1 for a moment.
Okay.
Liquid L1 and TUSD, in some ways, a lot of these suffer from a problem, which is like, it doesn't matter which currency we're sort of measuring the gain in. If you started with a higher amount of LO1 than someone else or a higher amount of native L1, it's very hard for us to sort of backtrack and say like, okay, this percentage gain in TUSD normalizes against someone else who had a different balance. So the way that we ended up doing that was for L1, we wanted to track basically what your percentage gain of liquid L1 was. Now, there's a couple things we had to track there. First was how much L1 did we give you? That's both in the form of L1 and LL1. And then how much did we give you in the form of drips from the faucet that could be sold into L1? I didn't want to include the drips in the faucet that could be sold to L1, but I had to because the way that we sort of made these price pools in order to be fair was it was based on how much you gained rather than how much you started with, like percentage gain. So I think it's called percentage yield in the spreadsheets that we'll share, which is like how much, what was your total end balance minus your starting balance divided by your starting balance. So very simple formula. But to calculate that starting balance and to make it fair, we had to include TUSD because if you don't, it can really bias the starting balance significantly. Um, and you'll see it from the spreadsheets when I show you. But anyway, so the way that we did that was everything was measured in L1. We took, as if you decided to unlock your LL1 into L1, we added that to your starting balance. Any L1 that you were given on day one, that was added to your starting balance. Any TUSD that you took from the faucet was converted to L1 at the average price of the day that you pulled it from the faucet. And so with those three things, we basically calculated your liquid L1 supply, both total and starting. The things that contributed to your starting balance were any L1 that we gave you, any LL1 that you unlocked, and again, any drips that you received converted at the daily price. So that was what constituted your starting balance. And then your end balance was basically all of those same things. And it was basically all of the L1 that you had, period. Plus any, did I do TUSD multiplied? I think I did. So, and then I added any TUSD. Let me actually double check that. I don't think I did. So I think it was just every liquid L1 token you had on day 449. So your last balance. And then we just calculated the yield based off of that. So that was the caveat for L1. It wasn't your pure liquid L1. Specifically in terms of your starting balance, we did have to convert some of that to USD into liquid L1. I hope that all made sense. I'm happy to answer questions, but you can go ahead, I think, and share.
Yeah. All right. So with all of that explanation, our official winners for that first prize pool are Minal, Jules Fava 6335, and Killen. So they were the ones who were able to accrue the most percent ratio gain. So Minal, I think, Laminals, Gels Fiva 6335 did really well in this playtest in general. Kind of a who if you're here in this chat,
Seriously,
know who you are. If maybe you changed your username and you are a regular attendee of these, but we were definitely chatting. We're like, who is this? This is really interesting.
there was like, if we included the farmers, I think Ed Keys technically won. Locked LOL was the highest percentage yield by a significant margin, but yeah, we didn't give prizes to the farmers, at least from the official prize pools. We'll find some other way to make you guys whole. But Locked LOL was the top one.
Yep. You were, but we had to remove you from the list. Don't worry. You're on a different prize pool. Spoiler alert. Okay, and it sounds like Jaws Viva is squid, so that totally makes sense. Amazing. All right,
Squid,
so
yeah.
yeah, that like he was so active in the channel during the playtest. Okay, so our next rewards category is going to be the combined sort of LO1, RL1, TUSD, all of that. So again, before we announce that one, similar way that you calculated that one, Will, any caveats before we announce our winner list?
Yeah, so just one thing I didn't mention is it's going to be the same between that last pool and this pool. Part of the reason this took so long and we had to make a custom indexer to do this is because we did try to backtrack or keep track of any like collusion or cheating going on during the test. So if you read the rules doc, there were what we called internal balances and external balances. External balances were the result of any activity that came from tokens that we didn't give you. So if they were transferred from another user, that would be the primary way to do it. And so these two prize pools we just talked about, these are only considering internal balances. So if you earned tokens as the result of tokens that were given to you by someone else, weren't counted. There will be a prize pool for that. But that was one caveat. Another caveat for this one, let's think, how did we calculate this one? So this one was pretty simple, actually. So this one was just based on your starting balance was the L1 that we gave you and the LO1 we gave you, as well as any TUSD we gave you. The difference between this and the last one was everything's converted to TUSD, so dollar amounts. The starting balance, so the LO1 and the LO1 we gave you, we converted that at the starting price of 30 cents. And then the drips that you were gotten were already received in TUSD, so we didn't have to convert those. And so that's what constituted your starting balance. It was any L1 you were given, any LO1 you were given, and then any drips that you received. We did keep track of people who received multiple drips from the faucet because there was a faucet bug. So for people who are concerned about that not being fair, that was tracked. They were removed. Well, they weren't removed. They were just considered external balance. So those aren't considered in the first three prize pools. And then the final balances were just literally we took your L1, your LL1, your RL1. If you had any WL1, some people had WL1 that was like stuck after doing a trade. We counted that as L1. And we also included any staked L1 that you had. So it was literally all of the L1 that you had in the system. We didn't include staking power, that's not L1. And then we added in your TUSD converted at the final price, which I want to say was like $1.20 or something. And so that was that constituted your total net worth at the end. So that's how everything was calculated. This one was fairly straightforward compared to the first and third prize pools. So I think that's it. We can. There is a
All right.
surprise in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Our highest gain here, number one is Viraflux 5200, followed by Grumpy Lily. And then Jealous Viva, our dear friend Squid, came in third for this one. Again,
Does anyone
Viraflux,
know who
who are
Veriflux
you?
is? Veriflux is really interesting to me because Veriflux started with a net worth on at the beginning of one. So like they had no tokens to start with. So I really want to know who they are and how they managed that. It's really impressive.
Oh wait, so Squid is Minnow. That makes sense. So who is Viraflux and who is Jealous Viva 6335? Who are you? You obviously you don't have to come ahead. We can totally have anonymous winners of this, but it's super interesting. Um anyway, congratulations. Also, I mean, congrats to Lily in particular, because she's always here, and I'm really glad to see that she won a prize personally with her army of ravens. All right, so as we said before, the highest gain for TUSD is still TBD. This one is becoming a major headache to be able to calculate fairly. We've really wanted to make sure that all of these prizes were calculated really fairly. As you can tell by all of Will's explanations, he's been like living inside of a spreadsheet for the last week trying to make sure that this is the case. Um, but yeah, anything on that, or do we want to just move to our absolute value free for all prize?
The TUSD one is challenging because we had to include TUSD drips
Yeah.
into the liquid L1 calculation. The challenge here is making it so that it's not just a duplicate spreadsheet of liquid L1. So in the same way that I need to account for TUSD that was given to people that could have been used to accrue liquid L1, um, I need to do the same but opposite in TUSD. So any liquid L1 advantage that you were given that could have been turned into TUSD. So the challenge I'm having here is like, how do I make it so that this isn't just a copy of that first prize pool? I have some ideas that I'm working through. Again, I'll make it as fair as humanly possible, but there's disclaimer, it's going to be impossible to get like an absolute fair calculation. It'll be as close as humanly possible. So I'm working on it, and we'll announce those winners soon.
Totally. All right. Absolute value. Will, how'd you calculate it before we revealed this prize pool, which
This one
was
is, yeah,
crazy?
this one's the absolute easiest. No starting balance. We don't care. We just want to know like, cool, who ended up with the most tokens at the end? Lied, cheat, stole. We don't care. Like whatever you did to get there. And we allowed the rewards farmers to win this pool as well. Um, and that's basically it. We took into account all of the L1 that you had in the same way we did that highest gain category. We converted it at the final price, and we added any TUSD you had, both internal and external for all the balances. And so that's how that was calculated.
I think this will come as no surprise. Although again, Jaws Viva 6335, whoever you are, you came in first, followed by Locked LOL, and number 3 is Killin. So those are our
Kim,
winners. Yeah,
I
what's
was
up?
gonna say Killin and Mino like were like so close, like within a couple thousand. So like yeah, it was a close call. But yeah, again, whoever Jealous Viva is, let us know because they swept.
Absolutely swept this prize pool. Like it is crazy. So yeah, this has been super fun. We're really excited to distribute these prizes to you guys again at the end of the week. Let us do some number crunching. As I said in the chat, we'll actually be releasing just like the full ranking list, so you can like at the end of the week, so you'll be able to see like where did you fall within these. We also obviously released you know, we tried to release daily reports to you all just based on, what you guys were staking and all of that stuff. But yeah, we're definitely going to share the data with you guys, and especially for the folks who maybe came in fourth or fifth and were just so close to winning but not quite there. Um, Amazing. So congrats, guys. Again, we're really, oh, sorry, it just took me back to the beginning. We're really thankful and grateful for your participation. A lot of hard work went into winning these prizes, so really appreciate you guys. Speaking of prizes, in terms of L1's Rewards Pass winners, just wanted to publicize these a little bit. We sent an alert out earlier this week to definitely check your wallets or your NFT tabs in the LAMINA1 bot to see if you may be the lucky winner of one of our rewards passes that we debuted last week. Our winners, these are your kind of like LAMINA1 usernames. these were pulled completely randomly. I have the proof from our development team. They sent me a video of all of the names being selected. Not going to share that publicly because it has a bunch of people's emails, and I felt weird about doing that. But definitely, I see some familiar names in here. I think Yasinu, Laya 7K, Pierre 9998. All of those folks are definitely folks that like I recognize their names within the community. So yeah, definitely check your wallets for those passes. That was kind of like a test drop of our first batch of passes, and we're going to be distributing a bunch more, I think, before the Hubmania airdrop and also kind of like after, as the L1 economy keeps going up and running. So I've been working with the foundation and our Telegram bot development team to roll those out. And again, thank you to all the community members who keep giving us feedback on the LAMINA1 Telegram bot. We are improving it weekly, really trying to get it up to par with some other questing platforms. I also, before we dive into open Q&A, we've gotten a lot of questions. I did want to just kind of clarify some like rules around how the rewards passes are going to work. So right now there are 210 platinum passes minted and 1,000 gold passes minted. That's actually 10% of the total supply of these that we're going to be minting. So yeah, that the supply is going to be 2,100 and 10,000 gold passes that we're going to be distributing over the next year. These passes are transferable to other L1 community members. So the idea here is that the rewards will drop to whoever is holding a pass at the time of our next reward snapshot. So the idea is like those rewards multipliers aren't going to show up live in your wallet. Instead, we'll basically add those onto your score while we're calculating those final airdrop scores, which means Will's going to live inside a different spreadsheet starting very soon. I announced earlier this week that our Hubmania reward snapshot is coming up very soon. It's going to be happening the week of October 17th. So next week, I'll let you guys know an exact date on that as soon as I clarify it with the foundation. But yeah, we're going to be taking the Hubmania snapshot soon. And the idea is to get that Hubmania distribution out right before the L1 token listing. No, I am not going to announce an exact date for the L1 token listing, but if you're paying attention, I mean, you know, we're getting staking wrapped up. We're going to get the Hubmania drop out by the end of this month. There is a reason we are ramping up, and there's a reason why we've been a little bit quiet because it's been a lot of work to get all of this stuff ready and getting to go. Launching a chain, guys, is crazy. I will say another big thing that I wanted to say to folks is make sure that the pass you're holding is real, or if you want to buy a pass from someone, we've noticed that someone's already trying to sell their gold or platinum passes on the Telegram and on some side channels. Make sure it's real. We have two collections pages that these passes should direct back to, the L1 Platinum Rewards Pass and the L1 Gold Rewards Pass collections. If your pass is not in either of those collections, for example, if it comes via the artwork template or something, do not buy it. And also another easy check for that is on the items details page. You can look at it, click at it, and the creator of the NFT should be LAMINA1, and the original mint address is this really long string of zeros. Again, if it doesn't come from those sources, it's not a real pass. We love you guys. We don't want anyone to get scammed. Important caveat for these rewards passes. Just make sure you know what you're buying. All right. So with that, we've got a little bit of time at the end here for some open Q&A questions. I think one thing that I really just wanted to address, I think, Will, you said you wanted to answer this above, but Ed's asking, like, you know, there's a lot of talk about securing the network, but the staking system seems pretty divorced from the security of validators. Like, am I missing something? How does that work?
No, he's absolutely right. So currently the staking system is like I said earlier, completely incentives based and focused and yeah, focused on liquidity in the market. Um, the voting token is one component to like how we secure the network, how we make
Mhm.
decisions. Some of that's more about like securing the economics of the network. So outside of like making everything like liquidity more stable and less volatile. It's also about making sure that the people most staked in the network have the ability, have like the loudest voices and the ability to influence decisions in the network. So that's one aspect of securing the network, is how it's governed, sort of on a non-technical level. Then at the infrastructure protocol level, or more specifically at the consensus level, yeah, there's this question of like who's actually performing consensus, who are the validators. Um, and this is something we talked about in the past. Currently, when we move to being a subnet of Avalanche, um, we're basically a static pool of validators. We don't allow community validation at the moment, but that's going to change. And so their Avalanche improvement proposal, I always get that wrong. It's not an Avalanche improvement proposal. It's a ECP or something.
ACP like 7.7 or something like that. We've
Yeah, yeah.
talked about it before.
And that's supposed to be coming out before the end of the year, and that's going to allow us to have a lot more sovereignty over our network and the ability to have validators without them needing to put up the 2000 AVAX initial investment. And so when that becomes available and we can start looking at becoming elastic, then we can start considering adding like either the voting token or even a new token that's tied to staking into the consideration process of who's allowed to become a validator. And so at that point, I won't promise how it's going to work or when it's going to be done, but the goal is to, at some point, include the token in the determination process of who's a validator.
Hmm. Erasmus asked, so like, do we have any results or conclusions on like how farmers did versus normal stakers? I thought this was a super interesting question. Like, is that data we can pull, look into? Is there anything that you noticed when going through the data, just the raw data yourself, Will, that you thought was interesting?
Yeah, so maybe I don't know, maybe people want to see this anyway. So let me throw up
Ooh, fun.
the spread, like some of the spreadsheets. You guys can see some of the percentages real quick. I can't guarantee this will actually work, but we'll see.
See, God, Discord has been. If you want to try doing applications instead of screens, that's been working for me. Um,
Let's try that.
Pro tip.
Maybe we'll do 1080p. Go live.
Yeah, there we
Fingers
go.
crossed. All right.
That works.
Make this bigger. So you can see, actually, I'll highlight them here. Some of our farmers here at the top. Yeah, they did really well, but they weren't the only ones that did well. So this one in
Yeah.
particular is the L1 liquid pool. And yeah, Ed Keys had a ridiculous yield, but like in no way did he. I know he did at some point sort of take over the economy, and again, that is sort of um, a limitation of this playtest, and again, why I urge you not to use any of this as guidance for how you're going to act in mainnet. Because yeah, there were no external players coming into the system. There were no, team tokens, investor tokens, large whales coming in. It was very much a closed ecosystem, and so within that closed ecosystem, they do have an advantage, obviously, and
Hmm.
but it wasn't overwhelming. Like other people were able to compete, as we saw with um, the net worth. This person, they started out with none, and they
Yeah.
outperformed everyone else. So, like this yield is insane. What is this? This is 22 million% yield. It's insane. So, like, it's definitely possible to do well even if you start with nothing and we have rewards farmers. So yes, they have an advantage, and that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Unfortunately, there is very little we can do to keep people from farming these rewards while still giving people who participate in the community rewards. So it is like a double-edged sword. But we have tried to make this in a way that it's fair for everyone, and I think I was pleased with the results actually. Um, I mean, despite the chaos Ed Keys was showing in the market at the end, um, I think everything stood up pretty well considering it was a closed ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, God, again, who are you? What is it, Belarus or God, it's crazy. I want to know who they are. Again, you don't have to reveal yourself. I just am very curious. Um, Ed's asking, like, did the analysis ever show something like one liquid L1 was worth about X in LL1? There's been a lot of like banter around like what is the relative value or worth of a rewards token versus a liquid token within the L1 economy that I feel like has been super interesting to kind of like watch and evaluate. I know that's hard tricky, but like any thoughts on that?
What was this was which sorry, repeat the question?
Ed's asking, did the analysis show something like one liquid L1 was worth about X in LL1? Like that the sort of like ratio between like the worthiness or like how much like the ratio of the
Hmm.
value of the two tokens.
It's a hard thing to put a direct result on. Sorry, a direct value on.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could try to like analyze the data and see sort of what type of benefit it has. Like on the face of it, there's obviously a huge benefit, especially early on, to having liquid L1 on day one versus like a large pool of LL1. And as time goes on, that difference is smaller and smaller just based on how the LO1 unlock process works. That being said, yeah, I mean, liquid L1 is always king because you can't stake the LO1 or RO1. So yeah, I'd be interested if anyone has an idea of how to make that uh, measure that with like a definitive value. But
Hmm.
I think on the face of it, it's obviously quite a bit more valuable, especially early on.
Yeah, for sure. Um, we've got a number of kind of like comments and requests about this. Lily asked about it. We've got a community member named Apasta who also has asked about this, but like, is the dev team still considering, we talked about this in past AMAs about like an auto unlock or an auto restake function, like, the ability to be able to kind of like automate staking for like whatever tokens unlock for a certain period of time or whatever. You and I had a lot of conversations about this, Will, about like whether or not we want to do that even from just like a strategic like perspective. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of questions about like automations and like how to make this easier on our user. Any plans for that, or are folks on their own?
Yeah, this is a fairly controversial topic. I would love to offer that to you guys. I'm probably not going to. Um, Certainly not through the hub. There are a number of reasons for that. I think it's a mechanic that's very easy to set and forget for better and worse. And so what I'm
Yeah.
concerned about is people automatically staking and recycling all of their liquid tokens into the system at maximum stake length, forgetting about it, and then coming back, even months later, year later, and saying like, oh wow, like I have an insane amount of L1 and it's all locked up for like 10 years. So that's something I want to avoid. I don't want to be responsible for that. And while we're
Mhm.
making the UX UI as easy to use as possible, I think it becomes a little too easy to do something like that and have people um, sort of shoot themselves in the foot. So That being said, there's other reasons for that as well. Like if I put a bot on there and everyone decides to do that, then like essentially every single day I'm going to be executing hundreds of thousands of restake requests and subsidizing the gas for that. So I think there's definitely going to be a market or an open source restaking bot that someone will launch. Maybe there'll even be a service where there is no bot, and people can just do it on behalf of you. Sorry, on your behalf. But I don't think at the moment we're going to include automated restaking directly into the hub. We did as much, I think, as we're comfortable with the unlock button, which does do a lot of heavy lifting. It claims all of your rewards. It unlocks all of your RO1 and your LO1, and it does it free of charge, no gas. But I think if you want to go to the next step and actually restake it, at the moment, my gut is saying we won't offer that. That's not a definitive final answer. Maybe at some point we will, but I'm not planning on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And finally, last question. Like, are there any big changes to the staking system we're planning to make as a result of this last playtest before the launch, or is basically what we saw what we're going to get for real when this kicks off very shortly?
No significant changes that we know of. No, we're still crunching through data, and like I said, if there's something that comes up in the next day or two as we finalize like these reports and everything and share it with the community, if something comes up that we need to tweak, we'll obviously let everyone know well ahead of time. But I think as it stands, a lot of what you saw will work the exact same way. At least as far as like the mechanics of staking go and the details behind it, will work the same as it did in the playtest.
Yeah. Apasta, per your comment, the tokenomics paper, the team is also going to be doing one final pass of the tokenomics and governance white paper that we're going to be releasing alongside the official launch of staking. There will be a couple of updated numbers. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but that is something that you guys can expect is we're going to be just doing one final pass of that, making sure that all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed before things go out. So yeah, thanks so much. And again, thank you all so much for asking questions, staying engaged. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll try to answer as many questions as you guys have. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. As we said, check your wallets by the end of the week. I'll ping you guys for your trophies, NFTs for your valiant efforts. Winners, you'll get the gold trophy, as well as the LL1 we promised for your valiant competition. As always, stay here on Discord or the LAMINA1 Telegram or Twitter for upcoming rewards, listings, staking announcements. Also on the LAMINA1 Twitter this morning, we did announce CEO Rebecca Barkin is actually going to be headed on to a different AMA hosted by some guys at Rug Radio tomorrow to kind of talk about the platform and what she's been up to. Kind of less in the nitty gritty spreadsheet world with Will and I, and more on the how we're actually, going to create this new creator economy and roll out LAMINA1. So definitely tune into that if you can. 2 AMAs in 1 week. I know we've been quiet, but we've got a lot of stuff coming up for you soon. Yeah, so anyway, definitely stay tuned for some upcoming feature releases and testing initiatives we'll be rolling out shortly. On my list, just, as a preview for folks listening in today, we have been testing with our top testers this new signed message flow that allows us to start allowing people to kind of link up their LAMINA1 hub accounts to their Discord so that we can start doing cool token gating and role related stuff based on your on-chain asset holdings. So that'll be coming up soon. We'll also, as part of that, this kind of L1 early access pass community is going to kick off. You guys are going to get your own community and your own channels and some exclusive content We've recorded an AMA with co-founder Neil Stevenson that's going to drop just to L1 early access pass users coming up soon. So that's on the agenda. And also, we've been talking to Peter and Jess, and we're also going to be doing some fun Persona Collective testing. We want to kick off soon. Peter's really interested in getting the next iteration of Persona Collective up and running alongside the L1 token launch. So yeah, get ready in the Persona Collective channel. Meeting with Peter about that actually later this afternoon. So definitely stay tuned on that. Really excited. Lots of things going on in the back end. See you all later. Stay tuned. Again, thank you all for the questions. We are in a mad rush right now to get the L1 economy up and running. And we really appreciate you guys so much. Will, any parting words before we hop off?
No, again, thank you all for participating. I think it was a lot of fun, both participating in the playtest, but also just going through the results and seeing how everyone did. And yeah, thank you all for the continued support and the great feedback.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later. We'll be on soon.